The E is mostly kind of silent.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Thought Leadership Thursday. We do a special segment on Thursdays. It gives me the opportunity to reach out to someone in our local baking community and bring them in to share their leadership skills and their thought leadership on the topic of baking. Today, we have a veteran baker, Mark Flarkey, from just recently retired from ADM with
Correct.
over 2 decades of baking experience, right, Mark?
Over 4 decades.
Oh, over 4 decades. Correct me. Sorry, I'm wrong. But thank you for joining me today. Can you share with the people on the live stream right now, how did you begin with the baking and how did you end up in the baking industry?
Well, I started off in what it would be called a traditional apprenticeship. So I was quite young. I was living in Germany at the time, and so I started at 15 in a traditional apprenticeship. And quite simply, at the time, it was because what was available, and I didn't know what else to do. And I did enjoy cooking and baking at the time, and so I took to it. Looking back on it much later, I guess I was destined to go into more of a research and product development job because I was constantly asking questions. I always wanted to know why things worked and how things worked. My chef would often get very frustrated with me and tell me to stop asking so many questions and just get my job done. Um, and so that's how I basically started off, and that inquisitiveness led me through my career, and then eventually just ended up into a product development and technical resource type roles. In the last 12 years with ADM, I was doing basically application research for ADM's ingredients. So it's been a very
Bakery
interesting
side
journey
or
along
in
the way.
general?
Pardon me?
On the bakery side or in general? Applications.
Principally on the bakery side, but I also did a little bit of culinary application. But primarily the focus was bakery with some snacks and things like that. We dabbled also in confectionery and things like that, where I just, from my experience, helped out. But my primary charge was bakery. So that is what I mainly focused on. But I'm
So
kind of a
you
jack of all
started
trades,
out,
so I help.
sorry, don't mean to interrupt you, but you
Yep.
said you started off as a baker in Europe,
Hmm.
is that correct? Because I hear
Yes, I
apprenticeship and we don't offer apprenticeship here in the US.
Yes, I did an apprenticeship for 3 years in Germany.
Wow.
So that involved
Yeah, I want
going
to
to
know what that
school
involves.
1 day a week. Um, 1 day a week went to school for a full day of school.
Uh-huh.
And until I was 16, I worked 4 days a week. Once I was 16, I worked 5 days a week. And when I was 18, I was able to work 6 days a week.
Wow. Are you
And
paid when you're an
yeah,
apprentice?
pardon me?
Are you paid when you're an apprentice?
Yes, oh yes, you paid so handsomely, right?
Oh,
I mean,
really?
yes, oh yeah, my first year of apprenticeship, I was paid $80 a month. And then my wage doubled in my second year. I got
Yeah.
$160 a month.
So
Um,
how many years of apprenticeship must you do?
3 years.
Oh,
It's
wow.
three
Okay.
years, yeah.
And that
So
is that like
the pay is
standardized across board in Germany?
At that time, yes, yeah, that is pretty much the standard. I mean, and depending on the size of the shop, they might pay you a little more, a little less. But essentially, it's because you're getting your education for free, and the money is to give you a sense of earning and to also help you to pay for purchasing uniforms and laundering them and all that sort of thing, right? Of course, being like a rambunctious 16-year-old, a lot of my money also went to beer. So, but that's
I
just
don't like
another
it. You're in
story.
Germany. They have great beer over there.
Yeah, yes, yeah, because back in those days, especially, you were allowed to drink beer in the pubs when you were 16.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and
So,
but yeah, so
what makes food production so attractive to someone with such a rich baking background? Usually, bakers are not interested in food applications and food production. You know, what make you get so excited about this that you joined ADM?
I I naturally always wanted to learn more, and I wanted to have more opportunities to do something with my skills and the knowledge that I had. At the time, I was working in a more traditional pastry shop again, and the gentleman that I worked for, it was just before Easter, and I got the offer to go to ADM as a technical support person, and told him about it, and offered. I said, "Look, I'll stay, and I'll tell them I can't come until after Easter." But he said, no, I never stood in anybody's way for an opportunity. And he encouraged me to take the position. And then I spent 25 years with ADM and haven't looked back. And I started off essentially going around to different bakeries, small and large, troubleshooting.
Mhm.
And helping them with problems and helping them with their product development projects and things like that. And I enjoyed all of that interaction with the different people and continuing to learn. And my approach always was that if we didn't solve it today, then we would both learn something once we figure out what the problem is. And that always served me well. And that led to a lot of friendships along the way as well, and people that I'm still in touch with today. And even 5 years after I moved to the US, I still had customers from Canada calling me because that was their automatic reaction to the situation. If they had a problem or something needed to be taken care of right away, they knew they could rely on me, and they just picked up the phone and called me,
Oh,
or emailed me and things like that. And so it was kind of it was a nice kudos, but it was kind of funny to still get these requests years later. And it's like, sorry, I can't help you from here, but let me help you find somebody, right? And that's being a resourceful person is what I basically became known for throughout the company and the industry. And so what attracted me was just all the differences, being able to run a taco line, as well as running a pan bread line, as well as running sweet goods, and just being able to work with these kinds of people, and the differences, the nuances. A lot of things are similar, but there's these nuances that make each item or each product so different, and it's on its own, and that makes it exciting and interesting all the time. So that there's never a boring day.
so you've seen the entire spectrum of the baking industry. Where
Mm-hmm.
do you think there is an opportunity to innovate?
The biggest opportunity I've seen for years now is pan breads. The
Bread. That's
pan
surprising.
bread is there's a lot of opportunity to innovate there because that market is stagnant. It is even declining to some extent. And particularly in the southern parts of the US, they're being taken over by tortilla manufacturers.
Wow.
Now, you can't turn a pan bread line into a tortilla line,
Mm-mm.
but what could you offer the consumer on a pan bread line with minor changes, that you can't get from a taco? Things like healthier breads, higher fiber breads, things that have an organic content. Even if you cannot make your product 100% organic, but if something like, let's say, if organic hemp was to take off all of a sudden, and you can say that it contains organic hemp, for a lot of the people interested in that, that may be sufficient for them to purchase that product. Of course, there's some background research from marketing and so on that would have to be done, but I think there's a huge opportunity there, especially things that have to do with making things healthier. Consumers are looking for ways to live healthier but easy, so that they don't have to completely turn their habits upside down. They still want to have white bread sandwiches for the kids. Well, then a pan bread that looks like a white bread, tastes like a white bread, but is high in fiber, for example, that could be then that's great then for the kids for satiety, great for keeping cholesterol down, reducing the risk of diabetes, all of these types of things, right? And so that's been the other facet also to kind of that ties back into what we talked about before, is learning all these things about nutrition is also what makes it exciting, because it's not just anymore about combining flour, water, salt, and yeast, but it's like, how do I feed my customer the best way possible? How do I give them the best nutrition that they can count on? Like when folic acid was added to the flour, so that we ensure that we prevent spina bifida. Just the same way all of the other vitamins are added, because we scale them all away. There's always this talk about how refined white flour is bad for you. Well, actually, it isn't. It has all of the same vitamins you would get from whole wheat flour because it's mandated to be in there. Always that long list of things that people always see on the ingredient declaration where it says wheat flour, and then you have riboflavin, thiamine, niacin, folic acid, and all these things. Those are mandated by the United States, Canada, Mexico, Europe. Everybody puts those in so that if people aren't eating whole wheat bread, they're not getting the fiber. Granted, that's where the opportunity for fiber comes in again. But they're still getting the vitamins, and then you can add other things, other novel ingredients and things. There's so many things on the market today, right?
Like Cindy said, inclusions.
Yeah, inclusions. Yeah, ancient grains, all kinds of different pulses. You can use peas, you can use beans. There's all kinds of things that can change the texture, the characteristics, the flavors. Imagine like a pinto bean whole wheat bread that goes well for making just a sort of a deconstructed taco idea or something. And so you're using a slice of this pinto bean bread instead of a taco, just to make a sandwich, right? Or things. And there's all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, and I agree with you very much on the pan bread. And sad to say, right now we are going to go through quite a long recession. As a lot of financial analysts have indicated. And one of the biggest recession food is pan bread.
Yep. Hopefully for the pan bread bakers, it'll make a comeback in this, and it gives them then the opportunity to innovate some more within that. Right. So, because otherwise the tacos and the artisan breads are going to knock them out the wind out of their sails, right? Because there's the people who aren't losing their jobs, they still have their disposable income. They will still buy Dave's Killer Bread and Bria bread and all these types of things where they're perfectly happy to spend $5 to $10 a loaf because they appreciate that quality. And so they will not lose a whole lot of ground. It's the pan bread guys.
It's a great time to innovate right now for a lot of the pan bread producers. And I really think that we are seeing, we're going to see a sharp pivot in that aspect. We're going to see a lot of drop in disposable income, and every time there is a drop in disposable income, the cheaper foods have been, comes surging up, right? So we're talking about pan bread. We're talking about hamburger buns. We're talking about hot dog buns, and then we're talking about food service, right? Food service, quick QSRs, we're going to see a spike in QSRs, big chains like McDonald's and Wendy's, just increasing in sales, White Castle, So it's one of the things where I feel like that is going to be the strong trend for the next couple of years. I mean, it came out of nowhere, but I think it's going to be there. So
there's going to be I believe that there'll be a big paradigm shift as we move through this, and with the recession and the change in our attitudes after this pandemic and things. And there was a huge shift in the 80s when we had that big recession, and that's going to happen here again now too.
Yeah, it's very sad that we have to press the reset button with this generation, but hopefully we would be able to pull through it with the baking community, because there are people like you who are out there and offering to help mentor bakers in this industry.
Yes.
So I would like to announce to everyone that Bakerpedia has hired Mark as our new community manager for our forums. So, as a new community manager, Mark, what are you going to be doing in our forums?
Well, I'm going to try to help encourage conversation in the forum and encourage others to also step up and mentor through sharing. Knowledge sharing right now is the biggest thing we can do to help our industry as we get ready for these paradigm shifts, so that we can all understand and better to help each other, because together we'll be a much stronger industry. It's not like back in the 50s and 60s when everybody was so secretive about everything that they did. We are going to be much stronger together through sharing, and that mentorship is the key thing to bringing everybody else along, because there's so many of us retiring and leaving the industry simply due to ripe old age, right? And those skills are starting to fade, and trying to bring more of these people together, bring the artisans together with the scientists, and collaborate more and bring all these ideas together and share, and so that nobody should ever feel embarrassed or reluctant to ask a question. I used to teach also a lot in community college, and I would always say to the students, there's no such thing as stupid questions, and the stupid answers are my department. So I'm trying to carry that on with the forum, to not be the person who provides all of the answers, to help share what I know, but also to encourage others to share and add to that, and so that we can all, gain from that in the long run.
Cindy says, welcome, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
I did see a huge shift in the industry in the past 18 months. I can count with all 5 fingers, 5 top executives that I know that actually retired, So, and we're definitely going to see, some pivoting going on in the next couple of years because of that. And I do want to encourage those retired executives to come back onto our forums and to help mentor, and those who are exiting the industry to come back on the forums to help mentor. And what I see mentoring as an important aspect in one's growth is because, I feel like in the last maybe 10 years, there's a lack of that, right? Because people, and because there's a lack of mentorship, there are less people coming into the industry. And I believe the inaccessibility to mentors is also a huge deal, right? So hopefully these forums give the younger folks accessibility to older folks, without strings attached, right? I mean, if you want to answer questions. If you don't want, don't. But if there's someone who's really in need of help, there's no harm.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's something that goes beyond providing solutions in a forum, sure. I mean, then there may be some opportunities for some of the consultants then to make contacts and things like that. But that's then up to the business owner as to whether they want a consultant or not. That's
Wikipedia doesn't. Wikipedia doesn't really isn't really concerned about the business that goes on.
And for the most part, I mean, I think that the sponsors of Bakerpedia will appreciate that. also, as I've always said, especially with companies like Puratos and so on, that you reach out to them. They are there to help you. They support their products and they will help you. It's amazing how much help you will get from your supplier today. It's not in the old, like in the old days in my apprenticeship, where it was just about, dropping the ingredients off and paying the bill and you were on your own. And that was a big part of what we did, or what I also did at ADM too, is we support the customers with their objectives first. And, we sell something maybe as we build the relationship, right? It's a completely different attitude these days. And I've always enjoyed working with Puratos as a supplier and as a customer. And the same with others that are sponsors with Wikipedia, Bakerpedia. I also like the Guard people and all these types of different companies. They're all very helpful.
You're bringing them onto the forums.
I'm trying.
Yeah, all welcome. Yeah. So Lawrence Mark said,
I've invited about 150 people yesterday, so hopefully we're getting some more business going.
So Lawrence Mark said, great addition to the team. Mark, can't wait to hear more from you.
Thank you.
You got fans out there, Mark.
Excellent. Yeah.
So one more thing before we leave. Really appreciate you coming on with me today and explaining a little bit more about what we're doing. You obviously mentor a lot of people. So before we leave, I want you to share a leadership skill with everybody. What do you believe?
I never realized how many people I have mentored over the years until my colleagues kind of pointed it out to me at my retirement dinner. And so I think that is just mentorship is just sort of a natural encouragement, just letting people learn and encourage them to learn, allow them to fail a little bit and let them come to you. They will come to you naturally. And that is then the biggest reward afterwards, to see them flourish. It's the same as when I was teaching as an instructor. That's also a form of mentorship. You have the opportunity to form these beings into something that is going to be in the food industry in the future. And I'd always say that when I would get the students first year, they're like little puppies. They're all paws and clumsy and everything. And then by the time we're done and you see them making these wonderful breads and cakes and desserts and things like that, and they're thanking me, and I'm saying, well, you made it, not me. All I did is just show you how, right? And
it's truly rewarding.
So mentoring is a quiet leadership skill that I think is very key today too. That brings people along and brings it so that you're taking them along with you and not keeping them below you. Right? That's
right.
The important thing. Yeah.
Right. And I just want to point out that what you said about failure is so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to take the risk to learn how to fail as companies. Mm-hmm. We need to be entrepreneurial about it and to quickly pick ourselves up and move along. I think that hasn't been done a lot, in a lot of corporations where people are so afraid to fail, Well,
yeah, a lot of the large corporations recognize that they're afraid to fail, and or they just don't have the mechanisms to do that. And that's where we've seen so many of these corporate takeovers of small companies, because they recognize that these smaller entities can do this quick failure turnaround, and whereas they don't have the mechanisms to do that, so they pick those up and allow them to operate as their own entity, and just so that they have the opportunity for the buying power from, say, General Mills or something like that. But yeah, absolutely, and that's where we as entrepreneurs have the opportunities to grow very quickly as well. It's because we can try something, fail, then just fix it and put it out again. I worked with a customer on some sports cookies like that. Yeah.
Honestly, we've made so many failures, sometimes publicly, and but that's why we grew. So it's one of the things where I keep encouraging my team to do. We have a really small team of 4, and we make mistakes all the time. And sometimes, it's public, and sometimes it's very damaging,
Mm-hmm.
but we all learn, and we just keep moving on. Right. So, and you've been with us at the beginning. We've made lots of mistakes at the forums. We made lots of
Mm-hmm.
mistakes in the membership, but it's something that we still need to carry on, and we learn a lot from it. So,
Yep.
so I love the way you shared your leadership skill on mentoring and failure. And I hope to see more of that in the forums. And I hope everyone out there joins us. It's all about learning. And Mark is a
Yep.
great mentor, right?
Thank you.
So thank you for coming on today and joining me and talking about leadership skills and thought leadership.
Thank you. It was my honor.
Look forward to talking with you more, and to everyone out there on the forums.
All right. I'll see you in the forums.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.